Hey, friends, there we are. Just getting off my intro tweet because this is going to be an exciting evening, and I'm glad that everybody's going to be joining us. Evening, depending on where you're at. Right now, it's sunny for me, so bright and early, time to wake up and get into it. We are here with the Esports Awards. Very excited to be talking entrepreneurship in esports and what it's like to be an entrepreneur. My name is Thom Badinger. I go by F on the internet, and you might have seen me on stage at the Esports Awards in the past, or on stage at any esport, really. That's kind of what I do. I don't run a company, though. So I have some friends here with me to chat a little bit about that. We have two panels split up into separate sections, and then afterwards, I invite you guys to join us in our networking sessions. We're going to go from here into Zoom, break off, and be able to chit-chat with people from all around the industry, both in chat and up here, to really talk about the nitty-gritty and get into it. That's not the only time you'll have the opportunity to ask questions, though. At all points in time, you can type in chat, just like Twitch or whatever. We're all stream monsters here, right? And so type in chat, ask a couple of questions to whoever is up here, and we just might answer it. So without further ado, let's talk to the important people. Four people coming at you right here in the first panel. Say hello to Rachel Feinberg. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm scrolled down on my notes. Say hello to I'm getting there. There we are. Danny Martin, co-founder and CEO of Esposure. Danny, hello.
Thanks, F. We're very excited to have you back hosting with us again. And thank you to everyone tuning in at home. It's lovely to see you all here tonight. We are very excited to bring you March's Esports Leadership Series event. So tonight's theme is entrepreneurship in esports. So perfect for anyone kind of looking to break into the space, whether you're part of a startup, an established company, you're looking to kind of pave your way in the industry. I'm sure you'll get some valuable top tips from our speakers tonight. We've got a lovely lineup of speakers who are about to introduce themselves, but before we kick off proceedings, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder that after the session we will be hosting a networking session on Zoom. So do look out for that. The link will be dropped in the bio, but also in the comments. Hop over there after. It's a nice way to kind of meet like-minded individuals, all your peers who are watching tonight, and make some valuable connections in the industry. Without further ado, let's kick things off. Over to you, F.
Well, that wasn't Danny. That was Hannah Robinson, Director of Operations here at the Esports Awards, one of the many women that absolutely make everything work here at the Esports Awards. So again, that is our Director of Operations at the Esports Awards, Hannah Robinson. Thank you so much to Hannah. Very, very cool. And so, yes, tonight, we're going to be talking all about entrepreneurship in esports. We've split it up into two segments, like I said, with the Zoom networking afterwards. So the webinar is going to be about an hour, 20 minutes, an hour and a half. And then, like I said, afterwards, we invite you to join over on Zoom. This time, I have the right names. I'm going to introduce my friends here, and we'll talk a little bit about entrepreneurship in esports. So now, say hello to Danny Martin, co-founder and CEO of Esposure. What's good, man?
What's up, my man? This is awesome to be here. Thank you so much for everybody that's a part of this. We're going to give some great information based off of our lives and what we're experiencing in regards to entrepreneurship and esports. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Also representing their company, president and co-founder of Mad Lion. Say hello to Jorge Schnura.
Hey there. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to sharing some insights with everyone here in the call.
Excellent. We also have Amy Brady, the co-founder of PMS, our recent inductee into the Lifetime Achievement. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Sam Cooke, the managing director and co-founder of Esports Insider.
Hello. How you going? Yeah, excited for the panel. I hope the noise behind me isn't too bad. I'm at an esports and gaming bar actually in London, but I'm in their streaming room upstairs, and they've had some pretty heavy Shakira playing for the last few minutes. So I hope the mic doesn't pick that up, but if it does, enjoy.
Where's my invite?
I know,
yeah.
Right?
Honestly, I kind of want to get on the jet and go over to London real quick. But let's start with you, Sam, since you are literally boots on the ground, entrenched in it right now. We'll go around the table and just tell everybody who we are, since a lot of people might know our companies, but for those out there that don't, Esports Insider, Mr. Cooke, what's it about? What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been around since August 2016 to be precise. So I'm the co-founder and now managing director of Esports Insider. We are an esports B2B focused media and events company, and we've got an agency arm as well. So we've been running B2B events from networking breakfast through to conferences since 2017. We've had esportsinsider.com live since 2016, and this year we're in Washington DC, Singapore, and London.
Nice. Always a big fan of the networking breakfast. If you can have conversation over
Right.
croissants and coffee, I am all the way in. We will go counterclockwise. So let's talk to Ms. Brady, POS Clan. What is it that you do, and how do we look at you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I'm Amy Brady. In 2002, my twin sister and I founded PMS Clan, which is one of the first, pretty much the first professional women's esports team. But back in the with the big boys in the early days, we were lucky enough to start a group that was able to pull in, even before social media, millions of dollars sponsorships for a few years before we went into our careers within the industry. So that was a really great opportunity as a gamer, which I was a professional gamer, came into Ubisoft's promoted team Frag Dolls. And then also with PMS, I was part of the first female team to ever take a first place in a national pro tournament at CPL, or was it CPL? CPL 2007,
Yep.
Dead in the day. But there's many that have died since that time. But luckily part of that, and was able to move my career forward, working at Twitch, building TwitchCon, Ubisoft for 10 years before that. And then now working on rebuilding initiatives with PMS Clan, who's kind of been more of a community for the last decade, as my sister and I went into our careers. So reworking on launching those competitive initiatives to try to bring women to the forefront of esports again.
Super sick. Also, slight name drop. Big friends with Rachel Seltzer. So
Yeah.
I know the Frag
PMS
Dolls
old school.
Yeah, exactly. My first community interaction in esports, actually, way back in like 2012 or so. So we've got community, we've got media, and we've got actual players on the ground. Jorge, you represent Mad Lions, an actual team in the esports scene, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're a team that started in Spain, and in 2019 we were acquired by Overactive Media, a Canadian esports organization of which we're a part now. And now, besides Mad Lions, we also have a franchise to the Call of Duty League, which is Toronto Ultra, and to the Overwatch League, which is Toronto Defiant. We're in a lot of interesting projects.
Awesome. So we go from Mad Lions, who's kind of the top of the world here, and then Danny, Esposure, you're helping people get to the top of the world, right?
Yes, sir. I think that's the biggest dynamic right now. It's like I experienced college as an entrepreneurship degree, focusing on tournament organizing and rebuilding individuals' consoles or fixing PCs, and quickly recognized that the industry needs support from a tournament organizing perspective. And, in the last 2 years, we founded Esposure Inc., which is an ed tech company that has created a learning experiential platform that focuses on providing experiential opportunities for students that actively can develop their portfolio in regards to the industry, so therefore they can obtain jobs inside of the space. We actually have an 8,000 square foot esports studio and education center in Dallas, Texas, that we engage with the local ISDs, Dallas ISD, Cedar Hill, Duncanville, and such, to actively engage with the students to incorporate esports programs from an educational perspective. So from our perspective, it's geared towards helping individuals get into the industry, exactly like you stated it.
And that's huge. When we talk about esports, obviously I always say that, it's a capital F, capital J fun job, right? Like it's absolutely a business and a job, but we're in games, not something unfun, no slander. So that's absolutely a thing, is that you're going to have a lot of people wanting to be involved in esports. And so I guess the question to start out with is, how do you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur in esports versus you're just a fan? Taking something from a hobby or a fandom into the professional space is a large jump, but that's obviously where a lot of it comes from. Amy, I'm going to start with you real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you set out to do it. I think it's something that you fall into almost in a way. There's certainly people, okay, this might be a big industry. How can I tap into it? And they're not familiar with it. But I don't necessarily think that's the introduction for people that come into this world. They are somehow tied to the group, to the super culture as it is, and something about that intrigues them. They're interested. They not only see the market, but they see the passion, and they just want to be part of it. And so then they start to be like, okay, where can I align? What's the opportunity? Smart people will be that way. And then you have us passionate people who are just like, wow, where can I just do it to make money and survive and live in it? So I think it's more along the lines, are you lucky enough to realize you have the opportunity to find your way?
That's true, is finding it. For example, I was a fan, I found a game, and then I was like, there seems to be a hole here in the space, and the rest is a song and dance there. So and by the way, this is popcorn, free flowing conversation, so feel free to jump in at any point in time. But I'll direct this one over to Sam Cooke from Esports Insider here. Okay, I've decided that I love games and I want to do it in the professional space. How do you go about finding a lane for yourself? Like, where in the world of esports is there a space for me to jump in and be like, all right, let's entrepreneur it all?
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't do that, to be honest with you.
Cool.
Like, find the thing that you like and are good at. Like, games and esports can very much just be your hobby if you love it, right? You don't have to make it your job. Like, if you make it your job, I absolutely assure everyone, like, it's not all roses, right? Like, yeah, this is an industry I love. This is a space I really enjoy, and that's the reason I'm still here. And I've been for a few years and plan to be for a good many more, right? But just because you love video games or you love like League of Legends or esports broadly or whatever, that doesn't mean you have
Sure.
to work in it or necessarily want to, right? Because combining your passion with your work sometimes means that becomes less of your passion. Like, if I got into it through the journalistic side, like, I've not written an article in years now, since like the company's grown and my position and role has changed, but that's what I really liked doing. And I was writing for a gambling industry news site called SBC.
Ooh.
I pitched to them in 2014 that, hey, I don't want to be writing like there's a new CEO at Betfair. Here's something that we could cover, which is esports betting through an industry side. We started doing that, and then later I pitched to them that, hey, we could do what this business does for esports more broadly. But we still get a lot of applications when we've got multiple roles open. We've had people apply for our journalist role, our marketing role, our events role. We've had the same person, and not to knock them as well, but if you just want to work in esports, I would say my advice would be, don't go about it that way. Find what you like and what you're good at, or what you think you could be good at, and go at it in that way. Maybe that means you end up in sports or something else, but like, go at it through the role and the skill set and what you enjoy, not the fact that it's the industry.
Facts. And I'll spin to the other side of that is, coming from the idea of why you might not. Sure, the other side as well. If you have a passing interest in games, like sports, but have a skill set, marketing, etc., that is an entry into the world of esports. If you're talking small scale, if you're just a person that wants a job and you kind of like games, listen, that's not the only thing on the resume that people look at for sure. But I want to spin into really finding that niche. I'm a business person. I've got 2 companies and I game. My kid games, so not me, but statistically. So like, how do I go? Okay, I've got a skill set. I'm interested. I want to get in. What's your course of action to entering the industry?
I'm going to jump in. It kind of still goes off what Sam was saying, that you do kind of want to know what you like. And so let's pretend what you just said. I know what I like. I've discovered I'm not only passionate, but this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do. There's communities that support. Luckily, we're part of a super culture. I'll keep slamming it home. Everything exists there. The information's out there. We all know how to Google. It is literally there. Whatever group that you want to be a part of, whatever kind of, avenue, whether it's marketing, whether it's game development, whether it's design, whatever, those groups and those communities exist. And we are very blessed to live in a world where those communities are thriving and out there. So it's very easy to find them. I think the most important step is to find what you're interested in.
If I can press you for examples at all.
For instance, I am okay. I've had plenty of my women that I grew up with, right, in high school or whatever, before my gaming career took off. Oh, my kids, God damn it, it's their kids, but my kids are super, they want to be a pro gamer, how can you do? I know you worked at Twitch, you're in the pro scene, like, they want to know, is there anything you can do for my kid? And we also have people email us, my girl wants to play, what can you do in your group to have them and introduce them safely into the world? But obviously, you're not going to probably be a pro gamer. Sorry, dude, it's not happening. That's just the way it is by all means, go reach your dreams, try all you want. Here's ways you can do that. But why don't you look at it if you really just love the industry, which you probably do, you're a passionate gamer, you're trying to be pro, right? Like, look at these other avenues. So that's kind of try to what do you want to market? Do you want to design? Most of them usually kind of are interested in game development after that. But there's been quite a few that I wouldn't mind marketing. So I'll usually have a conversation with them and try to figure out like what elements, what are you good at? What are you interested in? Unfortunately, they're usually high school and they're not quite sure themselves, but just helping that avenue. So you may be right. There's an opportunity for just that initial, and maybe that's where Danny can come in. But that initial, what's my place? Where am I at? And how can I reorganize what I, instead of to be a gamer, like how can I reorganize this passion into taking advantage of my good things? So that's an example, just trying to walk someone through and help them figure out where they can go.
Yeah.
To it.
I love it. And then you're
I'll
right.
To you, Danny.
I love it. That's awesome. So one of the big focal points that I always tell students is the fact that, yes, you're aspired to be the next professional gamer. And as our company, we've seen aspiring gamers turn pro. But if you look at some of the best gamers like Tfue, Booga, so many other individuals out there, they're good at what they do. But just like in traditional sports, once you are a pro, everybody's pro and they're all good. But what's differentiate yourself from the next individual? And so I leverage that as an opportunity to talk to individuals about the benefits of building your brand and understanding actual other skill sets that can differentiate yourself. Just in case, if you do not make it pro, you still can land on the actual star while you're shooting for the moon. And that's one of the biggest elements that I'm able to articulate to students, but ultimately it impacts the parents, because the parents does not look at it from the perspective of like education. They're looking at it as like, okay, my individual is gaming and where they're going to go with this. And so from our perspective, we're talking and speaking to the actual instructors and the parents about here's what individuals can learn from an actual transferable skill set, that in the instance that they do not make it pro, here's what they can do in regards to working with the next architectural firm or the next engineering or development company. Those are the biggest elements. And then I also talk to individuals about how do you step foot inside of the industry. I know when I was entering the esports industry, I would actively go to CEO, Evo events and actually just be there and listen to the actual crowd of individuals are saying, hey, this is what I need. I need somebody to do brackets. I need somebody to do videography. I need somebody to do shoutcasting. And once you identify where the need is, then you can insert yourself into that and be of value. And once you're being value to individuals, you can actively be there as a support system to help the overall community grow. And you can identify where you see fit as you actively do multiple things inside of the esports and gaming industry. And then once you say, oh, I really like this, then you can start to really focus in on, and that's how you become, a prominent figure inside of this industry. And ultimately for me, being an entrepreneur inside of this space, it was by necessity. I seen a need of helping individuals actively get into the industry. And I was like, wow, people are really finding it a difficult time to figure out how to actually engage inside of this space. So I want to be able to provide them the equipment and the functionality so therefore they can make it easier transition inside of the industry. So that was a necessity for me that actively said, if no one else is doing it, not to say no one else was doing it, but in my mind, in my viewpoint, if no one else was doing it, I want to actually help.
That's my man. That's my whole origin story. I went to a LAN and asked what they needed, and then wound up going home and doing that. So I know who you're talking about, man. I'm what you're putting down. But I love the angle that you're coming at with the idea that you can aspire to be a pro gamer or YouTuber or streamer, and like Pop Smoke said, shoot for the stars, land on the moon, right? And so the idea, Jorge, I want to come to you here, is while you are being a pro gamer or content creator or something, there are a lot of skills you learn along the way, whether it's literally using Sony Vegas or it's negotiating contracts with orgs or it's social media management. Jorge, as the head of Mad Lions, you work with a lot of pro gamers and working their brand, so to speak, or developing them beyond just pushing QWER is absolutely a thing that orgs do. So what direction do you think, what are the skill sets that your players learn that they translate off the field to help them be an entrepreneur in esports later on?
Right. I think it's not just it's a necessity. It's not a nice to have that they learn more skills than just play, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be a player, when you're 50, right? So And unless you are one of the very top, like the top 2 or 3 in the world, you're not going to make enough money while playing to basically be able to live off the money you've made and then investing it properly or whatnot. Right. So you need to learn more skills. You need to think about that next step. Just the same way that those players thought about how am I going to get to be an LEC player when they were playing from their dorm, right? And they started the good ones started planning for that and started doing like their training exercises and their training journey. They need to plan for that, right? They need to think, so how, what can I do after I'm a player, right? And some players can become coaches, but there's in League of Legends there's one coach for every 5 players, like head coach, I mean, right? So there's not space for all of them, right? Some players they're great personalities and they could become content creators, right? But these things you cannot force on them, right? The first thing that they need to learn is to identify what their strengths and weaknesses are beyond the game, right? Is my strength to communicate? Is my strength to coach other people? Is my strength in that now I know a lot about esports and the industry and the fans, and I have some business acumen? And then once you've identified that, it's very important that players take a bit of their time off of their free time and dedicate it to learning other things, right? We put a lot of emphasis on our players training their brains in more ways than just the game, because it's not just good for your future career, it's also generally good for your current state, right? Because a when your brain has diverse activities, it's able to perform better in each of them, because you're basically not just all the time hammering the same part of your brain, so the same, right? And then a player also becomes more valuable if a player becomes a content creator, right? While they're playing, even though they don't might be able to spend so much time on that, they become more valuable for teams because they drive an audience, they drive fan base, right? If a player develops coaching skills, we know that we can pair that player up with more rookie players, and it will be okay because they will have to be a good coach. You need to have empathy. You need to be able to teach and to share how you're doing things. So we know that they will be able to help, right? And that goes for every single line, of kind of vertical you want to go down. So we also try from our organization, from Overactive Media and from Matthysse, to help players identify that, right, and help them plan, what the next steps are going to be in their career, so that maybe they can stay with us for longer than their career as a player, right? Or at some other org, we don't mind, but we just want the best for them, because it's not just in our interest, it's also ethically the thing that we have to do, right? We have to take care of the people who work at our company.
That's huge. I mean, how many stories of NFL players that sat there for 2 years, 3 years, and now can't afford a Honda Civic, right? So
Exactly.
I say all the time that esports, when it comes down to entertainment, there are a lot of like unfortunate realities, and esports, we're building it today. We don't have to fight against exclusivity. We don't have to fight against the horrible ways that we've treated our players, because we don't have that history, so we can build our own pillars and become, that's why I like seeing people like Amy in the scene, is because the people that started it on the ground floor are now kind of running things from the ceiling and helping everybody rise. Amy, you used the term superculture a lot. A rising tide raises all ships, and I think that's really what we see in esports. And so my next question kind of comes down to, we're established. All right. All y'all are very established, very successful entrepreneurs in the scene. How do you guys help each other? How do you interact? Obviously, there's networking events like this. Obviously, everybody can come live to unannounced location at the Esports Awards this year, of course. Got to get that plug in. But it's all about helping each other. So how do you go out? We'll start from this angle. Sam, how do you go about getting help from other entrepreneurs? You've got a big company that's doing pretty well, but I'm ceilinged. I can't extend. Where do you reach out? Who do you speak to? Because there absolutely is a network of entrepreneurs in esports waiting to help you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from like 2017 through to when we were all told to stay home for 2 years, I was at all of the events, right? Like I traveled a lot, and obviously that's a luxury that not everyone's able to have. But I went to as many events as I could, and obviously, like there are so many different community stroke like business focused Discord channels. There was Clubhouse for a bit. What happened to that? WhatsApps. I'm in like 25 different WhatsApp groups, right, of different esports industry folk in different ways. Like people that, like that's the thing. People in this industry are generally super open and accommodating, and like it's easier in this industry to speak to like the CEO of whatever big company than it is in a great many, right? Because again, I think the people that are at that level often remember those pains from not too long ago. So I think that in that side of things, it's quite easy and quite good. What I think we struggle for as an industry, and what like Eunice Chen I think has been on here before, but she has she was she was like worked for the teams for a while, and she's now has Enlight, like ENLIGHT.GG, and what they're doing with Enlight is great in terms of mentorship opportunities, right, for young people or generally for people in the industry coming through. I would love to have a mentor in the space, right? And there are so few because it is a young industry, and because there aren't many people that are working roles like are above the age of what, mid 40s, 50s. Like there's not that many of them, right? And I'm like just 30. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I would I would love a mentor to ask about X, Y, and Z, right? And that's the thing. I love this industry because you can try new things, and like what we've done fortunately has worked out, and I think we're in something of a niche, and we've carved that out for ourselves very nicely with ESI, and we're growing, and like we grew despite the pandemic. But are there things where I'm unsure at times, like despite my seeming position? Absolutely. But I think there's a lack of mentors in terms of like entrepreneurs and like people at the same level being able to chat to one another. Yeah, there's loads of that, but the mentorship bit I think is something that is a problem, that it's a problem in the esports space, generally speaking.
Yeah, and I can add to that. You know, currently right now, I literally just got off a plane approximately about 45 minutes ago to Ohio, and the reason why I'm here is I'm meeting with Matthew Benson of eFuse, right? And I reached out to him approximately about 2 months ago, and I recognize as a company they have raised capital, and as a startup that has funded their own company, I looked at it as like, okay, if we need growth fuel, so I need to be able to reach out to individuals to ask them how they've structured their actual investment rounds and what are the key components to position yourself in a company to get investment. And I reached out, and he said, yeah, come up here, and I'll be able to speak to you. I did that like 2 months ago, and he gave me a lot of good information in regards to it. And now I'm here again to be able to get even more information and learning from him, so therefore I can add value to my company. So actively just going out there and just really being able to ask for help, and really putting your pride aside, saying, hey, I don't know, I didn't grow up in investment round. Matthew, he's come from a VC, background. So I knew that if I wanted to be able to grow, I need to be able to find individuals that can be able to help. And so ultimately, if it's a production realm, I know who to go to in regards to a company. Looking at Esports Engine, I'm inspired by that company and seeing what they're doing in regards to the actual industry. And ultimately, for me, it's a simple email that I can say, hey, kind of teach me, or give me any type of guidance without looking at it from a competitive perspective. But that's how, and they can say, hey, no, I'm not going to give you information, which you're going to come across sometimes, but ultimately it's just about asking, and you never know what you can be able to get from it. And I've luckily been able to experience this industry with the perspective of not being as competitive. I come from a pretty dark background in regards to a geographic location that's pretty like tough as an environment perspective, and people don't help you because it's ultimately looked at it from the perspective that, this is competition, this is real life competition. And what I've learned in this industry of esports and gaming, you can reach out to individuals, and people will give you a guidance and help, or they'll point you to the right direction to be able to help you. And so I'm a living testament to right now being able to meet with Matthew in the next, after this panel discussion, I'll be able to get insight to help my company go further. So that's good. That's a good insight.
Did you know? Sorry, Amy.
Please
follow
up with your question first.
Yeah, straight up details, because a lot of times these networking entrepreneur type meetings, we talk in fluffy philosophicals, right? All right, Danny, did you know Mr. Benson beforehand? And if not, what did you say? How'd you get that conversation?
Well, to be completely honest, we did some productions during the pandemic with them, and ultimately building up a relationship where they can trust that we can actually execute what we've said that we can do, and then that ultimately opened up the door to be able to speak on different elements in regards to the business. I want our company to grow. How can we add more benefit to your company in regards to, as you grow, we would like to grow. As you stated, all ties raise all ships. From that perspective, it makes it easier to be able to say, I want to help you guys in the future. Here's how you can help me by giving me insight, so therefore I can help you in the future.
Amy?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to build off that because it is an opportunity, I must say, with your audience right now being a lot of the businesses and the industry people that are already players, that I've gone down the rabbit hole a lot on like social capital and what that means for communities and players and people in general. But as I was going down that rabbit hole, I realized like I've been in the industry, we're 20 years, I'm retro. We're fucking retro this year, right? So at the end of the day, I've seen it all. And I actually feel like because we've gotten bigger, there's so many great things have happened, but a lot of us, we've regressed in a lot of ways. Not only do I think in women in gaming particularly, but just in general, in terms of our industry still really is small. It's smaller than what most people realize. It really is. There's someone, everywhere, right? But I feel like because we're always in that combative Joe Smo against Joe Smo thing, right? Like we're lacking this, like, okay, let's think of this holistically. Obviously we care about our brands, our individual brands, and we want to do the best for what we can, but there's so many opportunities to work collaboratively. And even when you're looking at like the products and services we're developing within the ecosystem, I think if people really push the bar and think beyond what there is, and it's not just how I'm connecting to this one ecosystem, it's how we're all working together to connect together to control a culture and shape a culture the way we want it versus it shaping itself, right? And that's when you get into social technical capital. These are the things that I'm really passionate about and interested in. So I just kind of want to do that call out. Whoever's watching, whatever, take a moment, stop and think. I literally just had someone that was like, oh, we want to partner with you and do all this and blah, 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 because we're diversity. Let me tell you, it's not even that easy. And really, they just wanted to influence her campaign, right? No, that's not accomplishing any of the objectives that we want to bring in women with esports, right? So at the end of the day, like, sit back, think, what are you really trying to do? How, of course, can your brand benefit from it? But if we work together and start small, we're all going to benefit in the end. We are literally all going to benefit in the end if we can just work together and somehow pull everything together.
Yeah,
So
that's
my
the
little
idea.
hype.
Yeah, no, you speak exactly the same language as I do about cultural capital and community and stuff like that, because that is really what I think ties a lot of the esports world together, is the idea that a lot of us, not everyone you encounter in esports will be gamer first, but a lot of people have entered the industry because of that pursuit of passion or whatnot. Absolutely, for sure.
Well, at the end of the day, though, any product that or service, like when we're looking at entrepreneurship, any product or services that connects a community, of course, which is the fans, viewers, people, to the brands, which are the gaming organizations, the teams, players, all of them, like that's the win for any company that's going to be started, right? And whether you care or not about it, it's still community you're catering for. The brands are not the players are not going to exist without the viewers, the fans, and everything else. Like it is a cohabitable situation here. So.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of conversation about collaboration, and when you're an established person like Danny, you can contact an established person like Mr. Benson and get that all well and good. I think you would be surprised at how many people will answer your cold tweet or whatnot, but I'm only speaking for myself here. But I think you would be surprised at how many people, if you were like, hey, I'm a grad student and I'm trying to do this and here's my thing, you got any answers? And you might get 2 sentences, but those 2 sentences could carry you on. And so the question, real basic question here that I see out here in chat is important skills when trying to enter the esports workspace. And realistically, I think those are general business skills with a shade of esports on them. Jorge, can you speak to that a little bit? What kind of people do you look for when looking for a desk person at Mad Lions?
It's a tough industry to get a job in because like so many people want to work in esports, right? Like it's so many people love gaming, so it sounds like awesome, right? Like you're not just in something related to gaming, but you are in a fan business, being in a fan business is extremely rewarding because that really makes your day every day, or it can also ruin your day when your fans are hard on you, right? But it's very rewarding in that sense, right? So a lot of people want to be in, but we are also at the same time very small, right? We move a big audiences, but the companies in esports, it's not like there's companies that are 3,000 people in esports besides publishers, right? So there's not that many job openings actually, right? So it's hard competition. So what I would say is, yes, you need kind of like general skills and such, but you need to really find something where you think you can excel, maybe not today, but maybe a few years down the road, something you can specialize in that is very much needed in esports, either something that is already being done, or even better yet, something that you think that as the industry matures will be needed 2 or 3 years down the road, and then prepare yourself for that moment, right? Keep a very close look and a very close pulse on what's going on in esports, so you're always very knowledgeable, or as much as you can be from the outside, right? And try to network, right? Try to be in different conversations and events. Try to talk to people, hit people up. As you were saying, if you've been an entrepreneur and someone hits you up and they want to do something, you're always going to answer because you've been in their seat, right? Some years ago, and you would have loved for people to be kind to you, as they probably were, right? So network and find that thing that you can do that will be needed 2 or 3 years down the road. If you don't have that, then just try to see which vertical you're very good at, and try to develop that much better, right? And then enter, because it's extremely competitive, and it's going to become even more competitive as it grows, because the audience is growing much faster than the size of the companies in terms of headcount. So more people are going to be willing to come in.
Yes. And one of the things to add on that, one of the things that I say for students in the high school and collegiate area is build your portfolio. One of the biggest focal points for us at Esposure Inc., we have one of our programs is called the Immersion Program. It is a 4-week program that allows the students for the first week to learn management, marketing, technology, competition, and production in esports and take assessments. And then on the second week, we break those students up into groups of 5, and they assume the roles of a general manager, head coach, marketing specialist, production technician, and a software developer. And we actively give them a salary cap, and we bring in a tournament where we actually host an actual tournament at our facility, and we give the actual athletes an actual 1-star marker, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star athlete, and give that data to the actual team, so therefore they can simulate running their own esports organizations. So by the 4th week, they actively can showcase their portfolios, which makes it easier for them to be able to showcase it to any organization, whether it's a college that offer esports scholarships, or that of an esports organization like Envy or Nate or 100 Thieves. So say, hey, this is what I've done, and this is the pathway that I want to take, whether it's graphic designing or event coordination. But having that portfolio is just the next step for a company. Like he stated, we're nimble, and we're agile, and we're also scrappy. Like, we want to be able to find the best of the best talent to and help our companies grow, since it's so small and the industry is so in infancy. But coming to us with a portfolio makes it easier for individuals to be able to say, hey, I really like this individual, and ultimately this can help them get into the industry. I can tell you how many times I go into colleges or high schools and I ask a teacher, hey, how many graphic designers are inside of this actual class? And you have individuals that raise their hand, but then I say, do you guys have a current portfolio? Can I see it? And then it takes from 10 to 1 individual or 2 individuals. And that person I'm looking at is like, hey, I really want you to be a part of my company to help with my clients that I bring in. So from that perspective, it's literally building the portfolio. And we built programs to help the students actually learn, but most importantly, apply. So therefore they can actively have a sustainable portfolio to help them get involved inside of the industry.
So that's it. Go ahead, Amy.
No, first of all, that's amazing, Danny. I was trying to get time to look in to make sure I knew everything you guys are doing, and I missed that all. I think that's freaking phenomenal, to be honest, because that is on my side, and the way I came in, that is the way my community, my people, we kind of talked about this beforehand. We have near 50 people that are all over the industry that came from my community. So you're right on par. A lot of them got that through like hands-on. So I think the key word is for the viewers that might be watching that are trying to get into esports, at least that are more on the entry side. go volunteer. Go to, first of all, Danny's group if you can, but otherwise go volunteer for all those communities. Like all the communities within the groups, they're always looking, even the content creators, they're looking for moderators. Start looking, how can you help them, like with social, those kind of things, those communities.
Yeah.
We're always trying to find people to fill roles within our communities that will help, especially the ones we rely a lot on volunteers. So look for them.
Yeah, Jorge brought it up. I brought it up earlier. You're bringing it up. It is fun to work in esports. It is a fun job, absolutely, and that creates a large amount of people, not all of which are qualified. And so how do you, as an entrepreneur, kind of nicely shave the chaff, so to speak, right? Like, we get it. You really like games, but I'm sorry you can't add anything together. Excuse me.
You don't know how to spell.
Sorry about that. But yeah, and so that sort of thing, when we look at the world, when we look at other, capital F, capital J fun jobs, we look at music, we look at entertainment, really. These are established mediums with, you can go to school for music marketing. You can go to school for sports management. You can go to school for sports medicine. Shout outs to my buddy Agro, who does something at Georgia Tech for esports, but like, there's not a lot out there for like esports degree. And like, if they are offering you one, I'd look really closely at it. And so a lot of what I know and a lot of the people that I respect in the industry have just sort of learned from getting burned and doing the do, right? Like, because here's the thing. This didn't exist 30 years ago. We are literally building it on the ground. So a lot of best practices or how you do it, you can't go to school. You're learning it right now. And so with that in mind, we take a look at what Jorge said about, positioning yourself for the future. I think that's what Esposure is doing right now. They're providing a service for folks that, all right, I'm into esports, and how do you get a job? Well, you just sort of do it. Well, here's Esposure to allow you to do it in this closed environment, so you can say, look, I can run a tournament. Look, I can do this. Because previously, you want to run a tournament, it's going to cost you $15,000, and if you fail, oh well, dude. And that's what happens in our world when we talk about inherited prestige and all of this type of privilege. This is what esports can knock down. And so, big grandstand moment here to put Sam on the spot as esports insider. Danny Martin has found the future spot of Esposure. He's going to facilitate new people into the industry. Jorge said, if you want to get into esports, you've got to identify some future spot and fill that hole. All right, Mr. Cooke. What is the hole of future esports? What do you think the industry needs that it doesn't have right now?
How long we got? The simple one, right, which we could talk about for a very long time and could be its own panel or multiple, is a larger player and viewership base, right? Like focusing on, there's plenty of League of Legends fans who are currently watching LEC, and yes, the LEC viewership is like growing each year and signing great new brands and so on. But relatively speaking, I did like a guest lecture recently at a sports business school in London. And the students were generally like in their early to mid 20s, and it was just 1 to 2 days were focused on esports as like part of like how sports is innovating, right? But that's another story. But I did a show of hands at the start for who has been to an esports event before. No one. A show of hands. Yeah, we can do it here if you want. A show of hands for who knows and who has heard of FaZe Clan. Out of the 25 students I had in that room, 2 or 3 put their hands up. Like, we forget, I think, being in this bubble of esports, that we're still tiny, right? We're teeny tiny. Like, the potential to grow and to convert those casual gaming fans who like play a bit of Rocket League or FIFA or whatever, but don't really care or don't know who 100 Thieves are or whoever else still. That's who we need to focus on. And like what the venues, like I'm at one now, but what like Belong Gaming are doing with the venues. There was news the other day that big news in Europe that Meltdown and Kappa have now merged to form the largest esports bar chain worldwide. So that collectively is now 28.
I've been to a Meltdown. Yeah.
Yeah, like now, and they signed up. Meltdown signed a partnership with Hard Rock Cafe. That was announced today. As was Usain Bolt entering esports, by the way, which is cool. But the venues, I think local. I've banged on about this for a few years now, but like local and accessible venues and venues generally that don't have to be esports only, but are accommodated to esports, in whether that's bars or to play and to watch or to socialize in another way is absolutely vital, because like growing the player base and viewership base is imperative, or this doesn't exist in a few years' time. And that has to be number one.
And we see that for sure. I went to PAX Australia in like 2014, and GG Easy Bar, shout out to them, and I was like, wow, a gamer bar. This is so cool. I only knew about Western Zone in New York. And now it's 2022, and everybody in their city is like, you got to come to our gamer bar. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
I got that initial proposal to sponsor for Twitter.
It's like boutique burger bars in the 20 teens. Everybody had like their own town spot, but everybody has an end to a conversation for sure. And we're nearing the end of it. And so I want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of like, we had some good conversation here. If there's anything we didn't hit that you really want to get out there, the floor is yours. Let's go the opposite of how we introduce ourselves. So Danny, all you.
Yes, for sure. I think one of the big focal points right now is that I see the whole right now is esports organizations. They've started with the perspective of competition, without the element of recruitment and a pipeline to help not only from the competition perspective, but how do they these companies like FaZe being represented as a billion-dollar company, they're growing. They need actual staff that's behind the scenes. And that recruitment element has not been established, but it can be established in regards to the high school and collegiate elements. And so what I look at is like, from my ultimate desires, I want to own an esports organization, a pro organization in NBA 2K or a Rocket League or such. But what I've had to do, I've been forced to actually create a company that's established the actual pipeline. So therefore, when I do actually own an actual esports pro organization, there's an actual pipeline that's already been established. So therefore, I can not only identify the next professional gamer, but I also can identify the next chief operating officer or the next chief marketing officer or the next event coordinator to help establish the actual organization to be successful when on all regards. And I think right now a huge focal point is establishing those high school, middle school, and collegiate programs. So therefore, we as organizations can be able to find the next pipeline of talent outside of just the professional gaming realm. And ultimately, seeing the fact that individuals are super inspired to see the next competitive gamer or the aspiring pro, they also need to understand that they actually can be just as prominent in working from behind the scenes, because this is sexy too.
Absolutely. Jorge?
Yeah, so I fully agree with the HR angle. I also think there's going to be a big need for everything that's data related in esports. So especially on the marketing and sponsorship side, we have a lot of fans, but we're currently not able to cater them with products or with experiences that are more personalized to each of our fans segments, so to say. We do kind of like the same thing for everyone, right? And I feel like with the use of data, we can really give more tailored experiences to our fans, right? And I think all that data approach also affects the team operation side, because we're still figuring out like what's the optimal way to coach and train a professional player, right? And in many cases, it's based on a lot of the personal aspects, but there's also a lot, I think, of data that we're not properly capturing and analyzing yet, in terms of finding more empiric things that they can improve on, right? And more like the subtleties and optimizing through that. So I think the whole data aspect is something that's going to be a big part. And then last but not least, I think all the intersection between that and then things like NFTs and things like on the blockchain and so on. I think that's an area of expertise that is going to be needed, so that the things that are done properly and in a way that's honest and that's good for the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both of you guys are hitting the idea that esports is an industry built on passion, and now we're looking for all of the data analysts and the necessary people to do the heavy lifting in that regard, for sure. Amy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously our growth will come from marketing. Marketing is the central content, marketing is built on content. So that is absolutely the place to focus with, like Jorge said. I'm going back to Danny though. It's been my crying little shame and my, half-written business plans all over the place about how I get my little girls, right? Because that's my passion piece, right? So anybody that is doing anything on the recruitment pipeline, I think absolutely. And then also making sure that they're looking at diversity initiatives in general when they're doing that, and how those recruitment, because I know lots of great diversity people are out there hiding and don't know better and aren't aware and are really care about esports, but the moment they are made aware, it's a ding. So how do we ding them? How do we set off that light bulb? How do we get them ready, right? So that's for sure my passion point on that. And then everyone's kind of said everything else, so I'll move on there and let Sam talk.
We've got a great panel here. Sam, last licks.
Yeah, I mean, generally, for like those that you asked this one earlier, I think, or alluded to, for those trying to break into the industry, I would say be persistent, right? Like, it's easy said, but be persistent. Like, just like people in esports generally, as we know, like a lot of the times it's small companies, or it's, like that's the CEO, but that person is also the CMO and is also finance and is also HR, right? There's a lot of companies that maybe appear larger than they are, which means that people are overly stretched, which is not a good thing. And it's a teething problem, which hopefully is solved in a few years' time. Fingers crossed, eh? But that means that if that message wasn't replied to, it probably wasn't intentional, right? And if you politely follow up, and obviously don't be annoying, but if you're persistent and keep at it, that will be recognized. Because as we've all banged on about, like, people that are in those positions, generally speaking, in this industry, were not in those shoes, like, not too long ago, right? And so they recognize that and will try to help people and lift other people up when they can. But be persistent. Like, if you have one message ignored, two messages ignored, don't give up. Like, be persistent would be my closing statement, guys, I think.
Well said. Be professionally persistent.
Yeah, maybe that. There you go.
Yeah.
And really, what does it mean to be professionally persistent? Don't be annoying. That's really all it is. Just don't be annoying. Just be a human. That is a lot of what our industry is, filled with wonderful humans like Danny Martin from Esposure, Jorge Schnura from Overactive Media and Mad Lions, Amy Brady from the PMS Clan, and Sam Cooke, managing director and co-founder of Esports Insider. So thank you so much, all of you wonderful founders, co-founders, and CEOs. Lucky to have spent time with you. We're going to take a brief break real quick, and we're going to jump into our second panel. Like Sam said, we're in esports, so we wear a lot of hats. I'll see you after the jump.
Nominations for the 2021 show are now open. So go out there, nominate your favorite streamers, your favorite games, your favorite categories, teams, players, everything.
Without any further ado, here are your first finalists for the 2021 Esports Awards. That's it. The next time I see you, we'll be live in Texas. Thank you so much for hanging out the entire time. That's it. We'll see you at the Esports Awards.
It has been over 700 days since we last had an opportunity to stand in front of you guys and, of course, present awards to those who are so deserving in our industry. And since then, we have had a lot of adversity that we've had to work with. And I also want to give a real special shout out to all the production teams that took everything remote. Without you guys, it would not have been possible.
We want to welcome you to Arlington.
Welcome to Arlington. Welcome to Arlington.
Welcome to Arlington.
Welcome to Arlington. Welcome to Arlington. Welcome to Arlington.
Welcome to Arlington.
We ain't going home tonight. Hands up if you feel alright. To the left and to the right. Look at what we started. Look at what we started.
Welcome to the Esports Awards 2021.
It's great to see everybody again after so long.
I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, this just felt like a dream to see so many friends.
We're going to have a good time here today, Dad.
We are.
Take a moment, catch your breath. Feel it, let it sink in. While you're dancing on your own, go and grab your best friend. I can see it in your eyes, exactly what you're thinking. Exactly what you're thinking. And then
welcome back, everyone, to the Esports Awards 2021.
Look at what we started.
Esports hosts assemble!
And the winner is Kevin Hick.
Keep grinding hard.
Ashley Can.
You inspire me. You motivate me.
Chris Haskell.
Be kind. Give a little. Thanks.
Shots. every single one of my co-hosts and every single one of the people nominated are absolute rock stars.
G2 Esports.
Miles Ross.
Cannot wait to get blackout drunk with all of you tonight.
Oh my god.
Simple. It's a vibe.
100 teams.
Big shout out to the Esports Awards for having us out. Big thank you to all of the incredible on-air talent and production team that put this together.
No, we ain't going home tonight. Hands up if you feel alright. To the left and to the right. Look at what we started. Look at what we started.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Hello, and welcome back to the Esports Awards Entrepreneurship Panel. I'm your host, F. I'm your host, Thom Badinger. I go by F. on the internet. And we just finished our first section of the panel. We have another section with 4 more wonderful speakers. Shout out to the interlude video, by the way. That was all filmed live at our live event last year in Arlington. This year it's at location redacted, we'll tell you soon, but it's going to be really sick, really cool, and you should be there. So speaking of being there, we have 4 people being here. So 4 more friends from around the industry. We'll go one by one and introduce them. Say hello to Rachel Feinberg, co-founder and CEO of Ateyo.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I'll tell you a bit about myself. My name is Rachel, and I started Ateyo about 4.5 years ago with my best friend, Brianne. And we set out to design the comfiest technical apparel to game in. So we make clothes specifically to sit at your computer, your PC. And we started very much in esports, and now we've expanded into streaming and music culture as well.
Side note, I'm wearing the sitters right now, so I can say that.
That's so exciting. Oh my gosh.
Good stuff from that side of the world. Good stuff from this side of the world as well, from the Truman factory. Say hello to CEO Derek Wilson.
Hey everybody, I'm Derek. The Truman Factory is a candy for gamers. We started the brand. My son Truman and I started the brand about 6 years ago here in Dallas. Truman was 12 at the time. He's now 17 and gaming. He's in high school right now. And we launched into the kind of gamer, streamer, creator space last summer. And it's been a great adventure.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing more about that stuff. Also, a CEO from CSL Esports. Say hello to Rob Johnson.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for having me. I'm Rob from CSL Esports. We operate the largest collegiate league in the world, NACE Star League, working with over 600 schools and 13,000 students in order to recreate the student-athlete experience within esports and validating students throughout North America and being able to gain scholarships, helping schools build the infrastructure for the student athletes and building from there. So looking forward to our discussion today.
Huge stuff. Collegiate is the future. I've done some NACE work too. Awesome. And last but not least, we have Alex, head of partnerships from DRINKCTRL. What's good, man?
What's going on, everybody? I'm Alex Matthysse from DRINKCTRL, head of partnerships here. DRINKCTRL, a startup company trying to make a shift in the gaming community to become a little bit of a healthier lifestyle here, make meal replacement shakes as well as some other functional foods. Excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So all four of you guys, all four of you folks, I think, come from a really interesting angle, because I think clothing is perhaps the closest to being relevant, for lack of a better term, in the gamer space, right? We're not selling peripherals or electronics or gaming teams. We're selling nutrition. Well, the opposite, nutrition, candy, collegiate stuff. And so, like, when it comes down to clothing and external stuff, I don't know if you guys watched the first panel. We spoke a lot about entering the industry. And one of the biggest conversations we had was how to find a niche or a spot that needs filling in the industry. Drink Control, Truman, Ateyo, a lot of these, like I said, aren't necessarily what I think, okay, esports. I'm going directly to electronics. How do you guys position yourselves as something not directly related to gaming, but still in the gamer space? Rachel, I want to go to you first with this.
So I've always played games, and I've also always been a fan of traditional sports. And that's why I think when a lot of people ask this question, we explain it as what sneakers are to basketball is not where we see it, Teo. We see that as peripherals. That's where your headphones, your PC, your keyboard, that's kind of the first hardware. Like they rank above us, if that makes sense. We see your Ateyo as a product that sits on your chair and then you put it on every time you game. So we do believe this is a product that enhances your gameplay, that's designed to sit at your PC, just like your keyboard is designed for you to sit at a desk and use. But we really see ourselves as enhancing what's already happening, if that makes sense. And I think that was a really hard concept, that your sweatshirt could be designed to game in. 4.5 years ago, everyone told us we were totally crazy and you couldn't design pants to sit in, and what does that mean? And no one will spend money on that. And I think now we've proved that you can design a pair of pants to sit in, and they will be significantly better than another pair of pants. You're wearing them now. So I think that for us, we really view ourselves as something that enhances the experience and the performance, but we do not view ourselves as competitors or a replacement to your peripherals.
Sure. And Alex, would I be mistaken in saying that's a similar route that you guys come from, or are you completely different?
No, it's very similar. The co-founders of this business, they thought long and hard after building a couple other businesses in the past of how can they make gaming better, or how can they make gaming healthier. And they came up with the genius idea of, gamers and just content creators, just a digital creator lifestyle. They're always working, always sitting down, always on the move, creating content, making content, streaming for tons of hours. So they decided, hey, instead of ordering Uber Eats, DoorDash, eating on junk food, like, we should make a really good tasting meal replacement to help these guys do their job while staying healthy.
Sure. And so we have two examples of things that might not seem super close to the space, but obviously you guys have drawn that line. And so, Mr. Wilson, with the Truman Factory, the idea of gaming as a culture, is that the angle that we've come from, or where does your candy come from with respects to gaming?
Yeah, I can see why that would be a question. Really, it's Truman. He drove it. The candy itself is gamified, so it has software associated with it. We created a single candy bar about 6 years ago called Truman Bar, with a unique code imprinted on the wrapper, and it created this golden ticket experience. And it was very popular here in Dallas, and we sold in about 100 locations. So it is gamified candy, and Truman started gaming, getting older, wanting the brand to be more sophisticated and more Gen Z. So we actually hired, I'm part of the investor group for NV Gaming in Dallas, and I made that investment about maybe 2 years ago because of Truman was gaming, and I really loved the space. And then I got to know Hastro pretty well, and he invited us to come to the headquarters there and sort of set up shop. And then pandemic happened, and then through Hastro met Skylar at Paper Crowns, and Paper Crowns really took our brand and created a whole new company really around it. So we have this really amazing software we call Epic Prize Vault, and we have all these new products in gummies, and they're physical golden tickets. Very Willy Wonka like in the bags. And we decided to make a market, in the gamer community, and it's been really fun. I mean, the brand is fun. Everyone we meet is very inviting and cooperative. I'm an entrepreneur, tech entrepreneur, anyways, and this is my full-time
Makes
job.
sense.
I drink control for lunch every day. I love their products. I have to get some new Ateyo pants. I got to try those out for sure.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems that you can find your way into esports. Rob, I didn't forget you. I'm coming to you. It seems like you can find your way into esports through a number of different ways, whether it's, Ateyo, I think I can see like a very obvious connection through clothing to gaming and stuff. Control, okay. All right. Taking a step beyond when we talk about like gamer hours and stuff, that's making your routine. And then the Truman Factory coming from a community standpoint. Really, there's nothing connecting the candy to the gamers except for the gamers themselves. And just before we had the co-founder of the PMS clan on, Amy Brady, and she used the term super culture a lot with respect to overarching esports as opposed to our individual lanes. And I think that connection there drives a lot of what we do here. A lot of our conversation is about the future. And Rob, I think that's you. So talking about, or more specifically, the students that are involved with CSL. And so that kind of goes into the idea of all these different avenues for people to get involved in and get started in. Rob, sometimes you are the spawn point for future esports people, correct?
And we hope to be. And historically, it really hasn't. And many players who want to go pro have skipped college by necessity. And even from 2016 to today, there was just very few varsity programs in colleges, and today there's hundreds and over 600 playing, just in our league alone, and many others are certainly helping serve the collegiate community as it starts to grow, and in high school, which is now feeding into college and helping get more kids into higher education and career development within the industry and many of the different industries we've talked about today, but also to really to get a degree if that's what they want to do and that's how they want to play. But it's taking a step back on it, broadly in gaming and looking at gaming. Collegiate Star League, which is really where NACE Star League started in 2009, it's been around for quite some time. And as we've continued to iterate and figure out how this can be, viable for both as a business and then also to the students, and then also breaking down a lot of the stereotypes and barriers to let's call it normies of people that aren't in the esports industry or the gaming industry that don't understand the benefits that this can give. What we did see over the pandemic was a lot of awful things, but one thing is we created more gamers. And with that, it really brought a spotlight to many of the communities, many of the products that everybody here is talking about, but also how in a place and a time where kids are participating in traditional sports less and less, to give a new avenue for growth and to really become new entrepreneurs and to learn business and to learn from the mistakes over the past 5-10 years that many of us have made trying to make businesses out of this and the successes that many of us have had. And that's something that takes education, it takes learning, and certainly takes a lot of effort in order to put forward.
That's an avenue that I was walking down with the last panelist that I think would be awesome to repeat here, because it's not just kind of like disposable tweet knowledge. It's actual experience. And so with that said, you can go to school for a sports degree, you can go to school for a music entertainment degree, right, with respect to business, but you can't really do that in esports. You kind of can, sort of, but not really, right? If you come and apply to my company with an esports degree, I'm looking closely at what the hell you studied. And so a lot of our learning is on the ground, is actually doing what we do. And so I'm going to ask you guys, lessons that you have learned specifically in your life as an entrepreneur, because like I said, you really can't take an esports marketing class that's super great right now. 5-10 years from now, I hope that changes. But, like I said before, shout outs to my buddy Agro that does something at Georgia Tech with esports, but I don't really know what. So I'm looking for lessons. I know that there are a lot of people out here, it's an open link, that are just like, hey, I like esports and when, I'm trying to do this, I have a small company. What are some of the burns or bruises that you guys have established throughout your time in the industry?
I'll just jump in just because we're in education first. Sorry, Rachel. It's, one, we're not advocating for an esports major. I think that's another topic for another panel. but looking at hospitality and many of the venues that are being built across North America, certainly networking and IT, or even broadcasting in the lens of esports, there's a lot of jobs that are being created, not just from the people here, but also people listening, where we really need to double down on it. Now, lessons learned over the past few years and working with other entrepreneurs, working with other businesses, have a business plan and just the basics of it to start. Where we've seen a lot of failure is, let me just look and see what's cool or what my friends are saying might not be, what might be neat, and throw a big prize pool at an event and say this is an esports company. And we've seen that fail time and time again. So learning, from others, learning certainly from the people on this call, I think would be very valuable.
Rachel?
I think you mentioned college. I don't think everyone needs to go to college, but I think an advantage and something that has been super, super helpful for me and Brienne is that we went to college for fashion design. So we have a really deep understanding of our product. And I think something I often tell people when they're like, I want to work in gaming, or what can I do to get a better job in gaming, is learn a skill outside of gaming and then come to gaming. I mean, there's so many opportunities, whether it's like a team chef, a physical therapist, like someone in marketing, like all sorts of different jobs are available. So that kind of related somewhat to your question. And I think something we've learned is this industry is small and a lot of people are willing to help and support. And so I think that really like putting your work in and then being a kind, honest human goes a really long way. I think that's just a life lesson. I don't know that it's exclusive to esports or gaming, but I think that's what I would tell someone. And I also think that, sorry, I have another idea. I also think that like being a moderator of a Reddit subreddit or modding a Discord are super great ways to learn about the industry and actually get skills that when I see someone's resume and they're like, they mod this subreddit, they actually understand community management. They've learned a lot of skills. So I think those are great ways to learn about the industry and get skills that, a degree may not represent.
You nailed something that I was really fishing for, and I'm glad you kind of hit, is that, there are a lot of gamers out there that are involved in something as a hobby that are developing real skills. I used to put my World of Warcraft raid experience on my resumes, okay? Like
I think
straight
that's
up and
great.
down.
Yeah.
I was a raid leader. I led 25 people to a coordinated, difficult encounter. I also ran a Radio Shack, right? Like that's pretty much the same thing. And so that's what I think is really fun. When you as a player on a minor league esports team, you are adept at contract negotiation, or at least have done that once or twice, and all these little things. I always go down to, listen, everybody that has a platform in esports has some sort of social media management experience. You might have to learn the KPIs for the people that know what they're talking about, but that's a big deal. Alex, what is a skill that you use in your day-to-day at Control that you developed just from being a gamer, or something that you might not have checked off or realized that, oh wow, that's a valuable skill, I didn't realize that?
Funny you say that. Gaming is what got me into the industry. It was just my love for video games, and I was working a couple different jobs that were not in gaming at all, but I've been a gamer ever since regular Nintendo, where I used to blow on the cartridge to stick it in there and stuff like that. So I've been gaming since I was a very, very small boy, and I loved it. And the skill that I think helps, in business and entrepreneurship is being able to learn from your mistakes. So if you're going through a level in gaming in Mario and you hit a fireball or something like that, you got to remember that you hit that fireball and try and do something different the next time you do it, right? And one thing I learned, this is the second startup I've been, is you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And it's not just being an entrepreneur, it's just, in work in general. And it's a very new industry for a lot of people, gaming and esports. And so there's a lot of people that come in and they don't really know what they're doing. But if you have that attitude and that go-getting attitude where you will try something, and if you make a mistake, you'll try it again and get over it, I think that's one of the most important things you can do in this space.
Yeah, like in real life, there's a real currency demand, and that prevents you from just re-rolling all the time, right? For sure. But I think we're approaching the page turn where we are established. Like right now, I think you totally can just the unbridled passion, and is it your way into the industry, right? If you're just this amazing, passionate person, you can make a whole bunch of business mistakes and still wind up getting there, because there are still holes to be filled in that regard. But we are establishing ourselves a little bit more and more, and we are requiring more of those traditional skills. And so, while I don't want to discourage anybody out there that's just like, well, I got a great idea and a couple of good friends and a daddy with a trust fund, so let's go ahead and do it, because I really think like this is an industry that you can still do that in. We are looking for more tangible, specific things, and that's not always where the gamer comes from. Mr. Wilson, I'm coming to you quite obviously here. A lot of us have built an industry, quite frankly. When I look at the people much more accomplished than me, these people have built an industry off of their interests and their desire and their idea that, like, well, a lot of people want to watch this tournament, so I guess we'll just move out of the VFW into the arena, right? Mm-hmm. But now we've reached a point where it's a little more established. And now we're looking for traditional business skill set. We're looking for, marketing people. We're looking for sales and business development type stuff. And so what are the tangible skills that somebody going to school for business, or maybe they play a lot of games but they're working at JP Morgan Chase, right? Like, I want to come to gaming. What are my tangible real world business skills that come over here and work in gaming?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about the industry is that, at the Esports Awards a few months back, there was a lifetime achievement part of that. So I went to that because we were a sponsor for the Esports Awards. And when the Esports Awards were given to people who had been in the industry or the Lifetime Achievement Awards, for 10 years, it struck me how really young the industry is, even though you all have been in it for a long time, and there are other people like, I think the two most gray-haired people are me and Wim Stocks, walking around the business summit in Vegas. So, I have experience as an entrepreneur. I've done other companies, and I'll get to specifics in a second, but what I love about this industry is it's so wide open. Like, it's made me think about all the possibilities, because I'm discovering all new sub industries within the gaming industry that I didn't know existed. And people are starting, like, the whole caster industry. Like, that's really fascinating to me, the casters. But I think if you get to specifics, I think sales is, for me, always the hardest thing to do. Like we talked about in the last panel, being persistent and not being annoying, just selling. So when Truman and I started 12 years ago, I took him to stores and we went store to store, and I taught him how to make a pitch to the store manager about the candy bars and the benefits of the candy bar and how everyone likes the candy bar, and let them taste the candy bar and all that kind of stuff. And about a year into it, I would just make him go in the store himself and as a 13-year-old and pitch his product to mom and pop store owners. And now at 17, he can go and really pitch his product line to anybody. So I think, to me, selling is always the hardest thing to do, because you're interacting with people on a one-to-one basis, but it's the most important thing to do.
Yeah, it's tough, and that's where you see a lot of times, where you look at these esports startups and you've got a woman doing graphics and somebody as the general leader, and obviously Ateyo and admins, and there's no sales staff. There's no event coordinators. And these are the people that I think are, like I said, that we're in this transitional period from the beginning of the story to the middle of the story, where the foundation has been built over the past 20 years or so, and now esports is kind of ready to, get out there and do it. And so we're looking for those more traditional is the term I was looking for earlier. More traditional roles for sure. And so, with a lot of the questions in chat are from viewers that are interested in getting involved. And, we started talking a little bit earlier about, ways to get involved and chit chat and this, that, or a third. Okay, let's pretend you actually get the sit down, the meeting, the Zoom call, the conversation. What skills are you looking for in, CEOs and general people in charge? What skill set are you looking for in particular? Okay, let me drill this down a little bit, because a lot of people are coming from like, hey, I'm really into gaming, and I'm really into gaming. It'd be cool to work in gaming. So what are some of the skills when you talk to somebody like that? that you're fishing for to find out if they have? Because not a lot of the people jumping in have that degree experience like we were talking about. And I kind of want to get everybody's view on this one. So we'll start from Rachel.
I think it first of all depends what we're hiring for, but I think something that's super important to us is quality of work and being able to take feedback. So we understand people make mistakes, but if you make a mistake, how do we learn from it and make something better in the future? For us, the quality of our goods, the quality of someone's experience with us, the quality of a collaboration is what our entire brand and business are built upon. So we have to do everything we can to make it as amazing and seamless as possible. So we really need everyone on our team to understand that's what the goal is and to work to achieve that. And if they don't, be willing to take feedback.
Mr. Johnson?
I mean, the first thing is it's really just reading a person, depending on the skill set and what you're doing. One, if it's an operational role, you want to make sure that they can execute their job and do it well.
Of course.
But don't underestimate here professionalism in our industry and integrity, and two things that as we go to, as you said, the next chapter for many of these businesses, that's going to be a key differentiator for a lot of the businesses that are going to flourish and succeed, is the people that do what they say they're going to do. And to find those people first, that's certainly what we look for.
Alex?
This is not only in our industry, but I think it's specifically really important right now in our industry. It's just your work ethic. I think you need to have very strong work ethic to really succeed in this industry. Starting from a very startup entrepreneurship, like a lot of us have been doing, to even when you really get into like a big major company, whether it be a big electronic company or a big organization, you could get in at the ground floor or C-level, wherever you fit in. But right now, especially in this industry, how we're growing and how we have a ton of eyeballs on us from the outside world, outside of our bubble of esports and gaming, work ethic's really going to shine through everything.
That's a big deal. Before I get to you, Mr. Wilson, that's a really big deal. It's a fun industry, absolutely, and there's a lot of people competing for it in ways. There's a lot of people competing for a small amount of shares in ways that you don't see elsewhere. If you want to go work at Geico, it's going to be a lot different than trying to get a job at Mad Lions or Team Liquid, right? Like there's going to be a lot there. You're going to have to work harder than other people. You're not just going to file your TPS reports and move on. So that's a big deal for sure. Derek?
Yeah, so our business is it has like some different components. So it's a consumer packaged goods business, CPG business. So from a sort of back end standpoint, it's hard for me to think about not hiring people who don't, you need to hire people who have experience in ordering like bulk gummies and packaging and warehouses and shipping. That really doesn't have anything to do with esports.
Is there like a mailroom position that somebody starts at, so to speak?
Not well. It's and then we're also like a direct to consumer business. We'll eventually be that, and we'll also be like a sponsorship business where brands can come and take over the Epic Prize Vault to get exposure to the community. And then soon we'll be doing tokens and crypto. So each one of those subsets has different demands. I'm really looking for hiring like way younger people who can talk the language and communicate with those in the community. I think, for instance, the community will end up being mostly Twitter and Discord, and I think if you're a certain age, you're not going to even know what those things are. I mean, Discord especially. So, in some levels, I have to hire experienced people, and on some levels, I have to hire people that understand what it is and are willing to learn. I can teach them how to operate more, but they know more than I do in regards to the content of what we're doing.
And that's huge. A lot of conversation, no matter what business thingamajig you wind up at, you're going to hear a lot of conversation about enticing the non-endemics, right? Like getting the non-endemics in here. And how do you talk to the non-endemics? And the problem is that we have a lot of endemics in esports and a lot of non-endemics in esports, but ain't nobody know how to speak both languages a lot of the times. By the way, it's an entrepreneurship meeting, so I should say that I can. But like that is a big deal. So if you're in your mid to late 20s or early 30s and you've been a gamer forever and you work at a regular job doing a regular thing that you went to regular school for, esports kind of wants you.
Yeah.
Like they're hiring marketing people. It'd be cool if you were platinum in League, right? Like we need a saleswoman. So why not have her be SSL in Rocket League, right? Like that is the conversation that I think a lot of people aren't having, is the idea that on your resume, I brought up like, in-game leadership being worthwhile. Like I'm not going to put that I have, all these hours hanging out on Discord on my resume, but that is a relevant point that people are looking at. You've got to be able to speak this language. And with the influx of non-endemics coming in, that community, that super culture, like Amy said, is more and more an important thing. But there's a balance between exclusively marketing yourselves to the turbo gamer who does nothing but play games, and the passing fan that bought the SK jersey because they collabed with Nike. So what is the messaging here? We've established we're entrepreneurs, we're doing it. How do we speak to today's esports fan? Because today's esports fan means so much. Like what is today's esports fan? And so Ateyo, I think, has a really, really good beat on this for sure. And I don't know how you guys do what you do. So please enlighten us. Like how do you join that conversation, create that conversation without alienating anybody?
Well, thank you, because we do that because I spend a lot of hours on Reddit. But we try to not market to communities. We try to provide value. And we also don't view it as one whole esports. How do we target esports? We think, how do we really get in with the Dota players that are playing Dota 8 hours a day for the last 10 years? Like, we're really thoughtful about who we're trying to message to. And I say that as I think there's a lot of different parts to esports, and a lot of times we talk about the same kind of spaces and communities over and over. And so I think we try to be really thoughtful about who we market to, and that what we're doing is marketing, but it's also providing value. So whether it's making a super interesting parody music video with a pro player, or it's doing kind of like an interview series and mentorship with women in the collegiate space, I think whatever we try to do, we try to provide value, and we also make it incredibly focused on what we're attempting to do. Very rarely do we do just a holistic overall video, for example. Typically, it's really for a specific game or community.
Speaking my language. Oh man, all about the subcultures for sure. Alex, you're also somebody that comes from an angle that is not specifically gamer nerd. I mean, shout outs to the kicks behind you, right? Like, there's a lot of different cultures involved in Drink Control. So, same question, but phrased better.
I mean, Rachel hit it right on the money, right? Like, this is called esports. The closest comparison that your generic customer will have to it is just regular sports, right? And when you're marketing to just regular sports, you have your different demographics of baseball players, hockey players, they're all different people. You can't speak the same language to all of them. So you really have to understand that, and to know that sports, regular sports have been around for a very long time. Like, you could be 50, 60, 80 years old and understand that, right? Esports is a little bit newer than that. So when you're targeting a Dota player, it's totally different than targeting your Call of Duty player, which is totally different than targeting your Super Smash player, right? So they're totally different people, totally different demographics. So to your point, on the question earlier, like, you need to have people that understand the space doing a lot of the work. And that's one thing that, that this whole thing, we've been talking a lot about it, is that coming in or hiring someone for your company that's like very traditional, understands marketing and understands, sales or supply chain and all this stuff, and they're really good at what they do, but they've never been a gamer, it's going to be very hard for them to succeed in this industry. I mean, they could be amazing at it, but unless you have a really good team around you that understands the space really well, and you're good at taking feedback and criticism, I think you definitely need to understand all the different subcultures in esports to really succeed and for your brand to grow.
Gamers have this stigma where, like, we're I say we, but I am not this way. I mean, gatekeepy, right? Gamer, you're not a real gamer is something that everybody has heard before, and that is when you're trying to sell to those people and you speak different slang, like it's tough. It really is. And so I mean, just I'm an on-air commentator, and when I get a job to go do a different a different game or whatever, I obviously learn the rules, but I also watch the stream to learn the slang. If you call a quadra kill in Halo, you're laughed out. It's an overkill, you moron. Who is this guy? You've never even played Halo. And these small things are very, very important down to the messaging. How many of us have cringed at a promoted Twitter tweet that's like, hey, all e-gamers want to come join us? And like, dude, who are you, man? And so you've got to have that. It was harder before. But now, I mean, I'm a boomer. I'm 30-something. And like, I'm the average gamer now, dude. So you have people with trad skills, trad experience that also moonlight at night, pushing mythic keys on their feral druid, right? Like that's super cool. And so you have access to these people. And there's going to be more because of people like Rob and Derek kind of like paving the way here in collegiate and external stuff to do what we do. So this is kind of the end of the conversation. You guys have really like nailed a whole lot of stuff. With that said, I'm not the perfect host, and sometimes I don't hit every point. And so I want to go around the table and ask everybody if there's something that they haven't mentioned or haven't spoken about that they want to kind of launch with. And as always, we'll start with Rachel.
This has been great. And I think that at Ateyo, we love feedback, which was discussed today. So if anyone has Ateyo or has questions about Ateyo, you can always reach out to me or Ateyo on social. And we'd love to hear your feedback to improve our product. And we'd also love to help you.
Rob?
That's it.
If there's any takeaways here, it's, listen, if you're trying to get to building a business within esports, you got to bring, passion, a leap of faith, an ability to network. But, specifically in esports, learn from the fundamentals. Look at the publicly traded companies that exist in esports. Start to learn what has worked and what hasn't worked, and you can really set yourself up for success.
Alex?
Yeah, one of the things that I think was on to talk about on this panel was like, what's the next biggest thing to to come forward, right, in esports? So what's the trend that's happening right now? And I wanted to hit on, especially with Rob being here, I really think that we're shifting a little bit more traditional from esports to sports. And I think that's an amazing thing that's happening in kind of like our industry right now, where all the professional gamers in esports right now probably never went to college. All of them, some of them probably even dropped out of high school in order to just pursue gaming as a career, because that was the only way to do it, right? You had to practice. At your prime, you're 18 years old, gaming, and the only way to become pro is to drop that. And now what Rob and just all of colleges are, everything that's happening now that they're opening doors, I live here in Atlanta, and Skill Shots and the Georgia Department of Education, they're doing a lot of really good things about just having access to becoming a professional gamer, the skills or what you need to do to become that without having, going through school, not having to do it outside of school. So I think we're in for a good ride here, and, college schools, just education is just embracing esports. And I think it's going to be great for, that side of the business, and in the industry of education is going to be very important in esports going forward.
Bet. I didn't know you were in Atlanta. I'm here in Zone 6. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Derek, up to you.
Yeah, I think I want to reiterate the point that it's a wide open industry for opportunity. And one of the strategies we're doing is to not be so business plan focused, but to keep an open eye out for what can we make that's cool and fun and interesting and tastes good. Like this week, we just launched our gummies in Korean packaging. So it's our own packaging, but we just translated everything into Korean with the help of an esports translator, one of the Overwatch translators. And like, why would we do that? I mean, it's kind of interesting, I think, and maybe it takes a life of its own. I don't know, but
Sure.
It's just fun to do, and maybe we make a new audience, the American Korean gamer. Yeah, I just think that as long as the people on here are keep an open mind, and I mean, you can just invent your own thing if you want, because I think the industry is very welcoming and always looking for new things for sure and new products.
I got to agree. A lot about community. And as the great Jenny Lewis once said, be more adventurous. That's really what it is. Be adventurous, be friendly, and be communicative, which you actually are going to have an opportunity to do in just a matter of moments. That brings us to a conclusion in our conversation. So thank you so much, Rachel. It's been a pleasure. Rob, Alex, Derek, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for dispensing your knowledge. I learned a lot today. Listen, you never stop growing if you never stop learning. So that's what we're doing here. But thank you so much for everybody joining us, and as well, special shout outs to the person who I misnamed earlier, Hannah Robinson. She does an incredible amount of work here at the Esports Awards. She is the big cheese, of course, next to Michael, and love to see all the good stuff that they do, as well as thanks to our panel members, Danny Martin, Jorge Schnura, Amy Brady, Sam Cooke, Rob Johnson, Alex Matthysse. My bad, dude. I'm sorry. Derek Wilson, and of course, last but not least, Rachel Feinberg. So thank you so much for all of our panelists. Like I said, there is a networking Zoom thing happening in just a matter of moments where we're all going to collab and get a drink together, so to speak. So I invite you guys to go ahead and do that. And so thank you so much for hanging out. We do this all the time. And again, the Esports Awards, follow us on Twitter at Esports Awards. We have a big event in November. Maybe you've heard of it. We'll see you there. If not, we'll see you in a couple of minutes on Zoom.